Revelations is crucial because many people make the mistake of sharing what God has told them before the proper time. The impulse to tell others often comes from a desire for validation, recognition, or the need to impress those around us. However, such actions can compromise the effectiveness of the message, dilute its power, or invite challenges that could have been avoided. God's timing is perfect, and His ways are higher than ours. When He gives a private message, there is an inherent divine strategy behind it. Like a seed planted in hidden soil, the message needs the right conditions to grow and flourish. Premature exposure can hinder its purpose. Private messages also serve as a test of spiritual maturity. They require faith, patience, and obedience without the external reassurance of others. God is not only instructing you, He is refining your character. Keeping the message private develops discipline and strengthens your ability to trust Him completely. It teaches you to walk by faith rather than by sight, relying on God's wisdom instead of human approval. The very act of receiving and acting upon a private message demonstrates your readiness to partner with God in His work. These messages are often accompanied by a sense of urgency or importance, signaling that your actions in response will have significant spiritual and practical implications. God may guide you to make decisions, change habits, or prepare for a season of blessing that others cannot yet comprehend. The private nature of the revelation is intentional. God knows the challenges and opposition that exist in the world, both spiritually and naturally. By keeping the message private, He is protecting it from misunderstanding, envy, or manipulation. There is power in the secrecy. Not everyone is meant to understand your journey, and that truth can be difficult to accept, especially when misunderstanding comes from people you expected to support you. There is a natural desire to be seen, affirmed, and understood by those around us. Yet growth often requires releasing that desire. Understanding is not a requirement for alignment. Some people are assigned to your life for a season, not for the destination. As you change, your direction shifts, and when direction shifts, distance follows. This distance is not always physical. Often it is emotional, mental, or spiritual. Conversations no longer flow the same way. Values no longer align as easily. What once felt natural begins to feel forced. This is not betrayal or failure. It is evidence that you are moving into a different phase of life. Expecting everyone to follow you into that phase only creates frustration. People interpret your journey through the lens of their own limitations, experiences, and fears. When your growth challenges their comfort, it can be misunderstood as arrogance, rejection, or disloyalty. In reality, it is evolution. You are not required to shrink to preserve familiarity. Remaining the same to keep others comfortable eventually costs you authenticity. There are individuals who benefit from who you were, not from who you are becoming. They are comfortable with the version of you that needed validation, sought approval, or stayed within predictable boundaries. When you step beyond those boundaries, it disrupts the role they assigned you. Resistance often follows. This resistance is not a sign that you are wrong. It is a sign that dynamics are changing. Separation is often necessary for clarity. When too many voices speak into your life, discernment becomes difficult. Well-meaning advice can still be misaligned advice. Not everyone has access to the vision you carry, and explaining it repeatedly can dilute its power. There is wisdom in restraint. Silence protects purpose when understanding is unavailable. Being misunderstood can create loneliness, but it also creates strength. It teaches you to anchor your confidence internally rather than externally. You learn to trust your decisions without constant agreement. This self-trust becomes essential as responsibility increases. Leaders, creators, and builders are often misunderstood before they are recognized. If your confidence depends on consensus, You will abandon your path the moment opposition appears. Some relationships cannot go where you are going because they are built on shared habits, not shared direction. When habits change, the connection weakens. This does not diminish the value of what once existed. It simply acknowledges that growth requires different foundations. Honoring the past does not mean remaining there. Letting go does not always involve confrontation. Sometimes it is a quiet loosening, fewer explanations, less overextension, more intentional boundaries. This quiet separation allows both sides to move forward without unnecessary conflict. Not every ending needs closure through conversation. Some endings happen through clarity. There is also protection in not being understood. When everyone understands your moves, they can anticipate them. Privacy preserves momentum. It allows you to build without interference and move without obstruction. Those who are meant to walk with you will recognize alignment without needing detailed explanations. They will support your direction even if they do not fully understand it. Misunderstanding reveals who is connected to you and who is attached to you. Connection is rooted in purpose and respect. Attachment is rooted in convenience and familiarity. When growth disrupts attachment, it exposes its fragility. This exposure is uncomfortable but necessary. It clears space for relationships built on mutual evolution rather than mutual stagnation. You are not responsible for managing everyone's perception of your life. Constantly trying to correct misunderstandings drains energy that should be invested in progress. Peace comes when you accept that some people will never see your intentions clearly, and that is acceptable. Your responsibility is alignment, not explanation. As you move forward, you may notice that new relationships form with surprising ease. These connections feel lighter, more supportive, more aligned. This is not coincidence. When you release what no longer fits, you create room for what does. Growth is selective by nature. It refines your environment as much as it refines you. Not everyone is meant to walk with you into what is next, because not everyone is built for the weight of it. Different levels of responsibility require different levels of understanding. Those who cannot carry the vision would struggle under its demands. Separation is not rejection, it is wisdom. Being misunderstood is often the price of becoming. If you wait to be fully understood before you move, you will never move. Progress requires courage to walk alone when necessary, and humility to walk with others when aligned. The journey was never meant to be crowded. It was meant to be true. Trust without needing validation is one of the most difficult disciplines to develop because it requires security that does not come from external agreement. From an early age, approval teaches us what is acceptable and what is rewarded. Over time, this conditioning can quietly replace inner conviction. When validation becomes the measure of direction, progress becomes dependent on applause. Learning to move without that applause is not instinctive, it is intentional. There comes a point in growth where explanations become unnecessary, not because you are above others, but because clarity has already been established within you. When you know why you are doing something, the need to convince fades. Trust shifts from being reactive to being rooted. You stop adjusting your direction to reduce discomfort in others. This internal alignment creates stability that external approval never could. Validation is fragile. It fluctuates with opinion, trends, and circumstance. What is celebrated today may be criticized tomorrow. If your confidence is built on feedback, it will rise and fall unpredictably. Trust, on the other hand, is consistent. It is developed through reflection, experience, and commitment. It does not require constant reinforcement. It endures pressure because it is internal. Seeking validation often disguises itself as transparency. Oversharing plans, intentions, and struggles can feel honest, but it can also expose you to unnecessary influence. Not every voice deserves access to your process. When you invite too many opinions, clarity becomes compromised. Trust grows when you limit access and choose discernment over disclosure. There is strength in moving quietly with certainty. Silence, when paired with confidence, communicates more than explanation ever could. When actions align consistently over time, they establish credibility without words. People may not understand your choices immediately, but consistency builds understanding naturally. Validation becomes irrelevant when results are undeniable. Trust also requires patience with misunderstanding. When you stop explaining, assumptions will form. Some will misinterpret your silence as distance, secrecy, or indecision. Resisting the urge to correct every misconception is part of maturity. Energy spent on perception management is energy diverted from purpose. Progress accelerates when focus narrows. Self-trust is built through honoring small commitments. Each time you follow through privately, confidence increases. Each time you resist the urge to seek reassurance, independence strengthens. This discipline compounds. Over time, you no longer need external confirmation because your internal track record speaks for itself. Validation can create dependency. When praise is expected, absence feels like rejection. This emotional dependency can distort decision-making, causing hesitation or compromise. Trust frees you from that cycle. It allows you to act based on principle rather than reaction. Decisions become proactive instead of defensive. There is also humility in trust. You accept that not everyone needs to understand your intentions. You release the need to be perceived correctly at all times. This humility is not weakness. It is confidence without ego. It reflects security that does not require constant affirmation. Trust sharpens discernment. When you stop looking outward for answers, intuition strengthens. You become more aware of internal signals, timing, and alignment. This awareness improves decision-making. You move with intention instead of urgency. Validation often pushes people to act prematurely. Trust allows patience. As trust deepens, your relationship with uncertainty changes. You no longer interpret unknown outcomes as threats. You understand that clarity unfolds through movement, not approval. You become comfortable making decisions without full visibility. This comfort is essential for growth because certainty rarely precedes progress. Letting go of validation also changes how you handle success. Recognition becomes something you appreciate rather than something you need. Praise no longer defines your worth. Criticism no longer dismantles it. Emotional balance improves because identity is no longer outsourced to public opinion. Trust creates quiet resilience. When setbacks occur, you do not immediately question your direction. You assess, adjust, and continue. Validation-driven individuals often abandon their path at the first sign of disapproval. Trust-driven individuals remain steady because their foundation is internal. Over time, people begin to sense this independence. They may not always agree with your choices, but they will respect your consistency. Leadership emerges not from popularity, but from conviction. Those who trust themselves inspire confidence in others, even without explanation. Releasing the need for validation does not mean rejecting feedback entirely. It means filtering it. You learn the difference between insight and noise. You remain open without being influenced. This balance allows growth without compromise. Trust without validation is not learned in moments of success, but in moments of silence. It develops when no one is watching, when no one is applauding, when no one is confirming. In those moments, you decide whether your belief is real or performative. Each decision strengthens alignment. Eventually, trust becomes your default. You move with calm assurance. You no longer seek permission to become who you are meant to be. Validation may come, or it may not. but it no longer determines your direction. Your confidence is settled, your focus is clear, and your path remains steady. The message is simple, even if the journey is not. What feels like silence is preparation. What feels like separation is alignment. And what feels like uncertainty is an invitation to trust more deeply. You were never meant to be understood by everyone, and you were never meant to explain what was divinely formed within you. Some seasons require privacy, patience, and unwavering belief without evidence. When you accept this, pressure lifts and clarity follows. You stop striving for approval and start moving with purpose. In time, everything that was hidden will be revealed, not through words, but through results. And when that moment arrives, you will recognize that nothing was wasted, nothing was accidental, and every quiet step was leading you exactly where you were meant to be.